Hi, welcome to another video in the series looking at explaining the rules that often confuse or trip people up. In this video I demystified terrain rules, which are actually pretty confusing and easy to forget. Terrain rules are detailed, complex and numerous. Most people honestly play some sort of house rule system, and as long as both players agree what terrain does before they play, all is good. Knowing terrain rules is important as it can play a massive part of your game, whether slowing movement down, poorer shooting, better saving, or just plain old hiding. I've annotated this video so you can check out the chapters so you can jump to all the bits you really care about. Not all your army are equally affected by terrain. Infantry, beasts and swarms, fly or monsters and vehicles are all treated a bit differently. Terrain is split into 4 categories and 12 traits. Each has rules and they can layer up, so you can see just how complex things can be. The first category you have is hills, and these are just essentially part of the battlefield. You can move over them normally. You can also choose whether you're allowed to stand on them, but they can block line of sight. Buildings are considered to be units and not terrain. Each has a data sheet and can be friendly or an enemy. The majority of the time you're probably going to play buildings without a data sheet, which means they can just be treated as obstacles or area terrain. A key part of area terrain is its footprint. This is the ground level area that the terrain takes up. If it has a base, then that base is the footprint. Otherwise, you can just agree with the opponent what the footprint is, and you can often just use the open edges and draw a straight line to say that that is part of the footprint. Models gain the terrain rules when they are wholly or partially in. The last type is obstacles, and here are some examples: broken bits of wall, barricades, pipes, and essentially they only affect infantry, beasts and swarms. Battlefield debris or scatter terrain like this doesn't really have any rules, but looks pretty cool. Now let's look at each of the 12 terrain traits. The first one is defensible. This is only for infantry units and affects things like woods, ruins, obstacles like fuel pipes, barricades, broken walls. Every infantry model within 3 inches of one of these items can choose one of 2 buffs. They either get hold steady, which is Overwatch on 5+, or set to defend, which is +1 to hit in melee. Let's be honest, this is actually a really powerful buff, but we probably all forget about it. Defense line. Normally when you charge you have to end within an engagement range of 1 inch, but that would mean bouncing on top of there and you can't do that. So instead, defense line allows you to end within 2 inches as long as you are touching the terrain that has that keyword. You can engage your enemy within 2 inches, and means you have fight over the top of obstacles like pipes or barricades. Breachable. Infantry, beasts and swarms can move through the terrain like it wasn't there. Difficult ground. Things like craters, barricades, pipes and area terrain like woods have a -2 to your move, that's whether you advance or charge, regardless of what type of unit you are, except if you have the fly keyword. So it doesn't matter how big you are, you're -2 to your movements unless you can fly. Dense cover. Typically things like woods, but also applies to ruined walls. If it's at least 3 inches high and you draw a line between the models that are shooting at each other, then they have -1 to hit. This is the same if you shoot someone in dense cover or through dense cover. To determine whether the -1 applies, you have to draw a line to every part of a model's base and every model in the unit. In this example here, even though the unit is partially in the terrain feature, one model can be shot without drawing a line through it, therefore none of the models gain -1. This is particularly strong for vehicles because they have quite big bases, so part of the base can be obscured, but the rest of the unit could actually look like it's sticking out. If you are in the dense cover and shooting out, there is no penalty to shoot. Aircraft and models with 18 rooms or more cannot gain dense cover. Unstable position. This means you can't stand on the piece of terrain, essentially for those bits you can't bounce on anyway, so pipes, statues and things like that. Obscuring. If a terrain feature is at least 5 inches in height, and this is commonly applied to ruins, then you can't target and shoot through them. They'll stop you shooting through them unless you are in them. Even partially within the ruin, they can shoot out, but nothing can shoot in. This doesn't apply to aircraft or things with 18 or more wounds, like this knight. These guys can shoot him, he cannot shoot back. Light cover. This is only for infantry, beasts and swarms, and essentially you get a +1 to your armour save against ranged attacks. The common terrain features you get this from are ruins, pipes and barricades. Heavy cover. Again for infantry, beasts and swarms, and this time they get a +1 to save in melee. So considering pipes and barricades are really good for your units because you get both light and heavy cover. A great place to hunker down behind. Scalable. Infantry, beasts and swarms again, essentially means you can climb up onto terrain. Only those 3 types and anything with the fly keyword can get onto top floors. Monsters cannot get up there. So if this terrain feature was over 5 inches high and engagement is 5 inches vertically, this monster wouldn't be able to reach the infantry at the top. Inspiring. I doubt anyone actually plays these type of terrain pieces, but you get a +1 leadership if you are wholly within 6 inches. You do have to share the same keyword as the terrain, so in this case, it'll be Imperium. So looking at some common examples that people play with, let's look at ruins first. These are scalable, you can climb up them. They're breachable, you can go through them. They give light cover, which is +1 to your armor save. They're defensible, so you can either choose a 5+ Overwatch or +1 to hit in melee. And they're obscuring, so you can't see through them. Woods, these are dense cover, so that's -1 to hit through them. Breachable, so you can walk through them. Defensible, so you get your buff to Overwatch or hit to melee. And they're difficult ground, so it's -2 to your movement. Everyone's favourite, the crater. Light cover, so you get a +1 to your armor save. And difficult ground, so it's -2 to your movements. Some of the most beneficial are barricades and fuel pipes. They're unstable positions, so you can't stand on them. They're difficult ground, so you got -2 to move. Their defense line, so engagement range is increased to 2 inches. They're defensible, so you get your buff to Overwatch or +1 to hit in melee. They're light cover, so you get a +1 to armor save, and also heavy cover, so +1 to save in melee as well. If 2 units are battling over a barricade and neither charge that turn, then they both get the benefits of heavy cover, so +1 to armor save and melee. I hope this has been helpful, and don't forget to check out this playlist for all the other videos in this series. See you again soon. Bye.